Hey y'all, you're listening to Diagnosing Sitcoms and Movies, the DSM podcast. We help make mental health more comfortable by using Black movies and shows we know and love and culture to remove stigma. So join our convo with your host, Courtney Copeland, licensed mental health counselor.
And Dr. B, licensed professional counselor.
Rockabye, baby.
Jesus.
One of my favorites. Hello, everybody. This episode, we are going to be talking about the 1991 action crime film, New Jack City. And we are joined by a very special guest. I'm excited.
I am too. I'm so excited to have the beautiful, wonderful Jessica Love Jordan with us. She is a licensed clinical professional counselor. She's also a certified alcohol drug counselor, and she also has her master's in health science. And not to add this extra plug because it's not necessary, she's also a former doctoral student of mine, and she's one of my favorites. I can say that now. Welcome. Tell us a little bit about you, Jessica.
Well, I think you kind of hit everything on the head. So I practice as a licensed clinical professional counselor. I actually have the privilege of working at a practice, Cultivate Your Essence, that specializes in working specifically with Black and women of color. Beyond that, I teach full-time at Governor State University in their addiction studies program. And if that wasn't enough, I have a consulting business that I'm kind of getting started, working specifically with like primary care, medical settings, and getting them more equipped to work with clients who have mental health and substance use issues.
She said she's a busy woman.
Okay, get into it. Well, I'm so happy you took some time to hang out with us today and to talk about this movie. I can't wait to hear what you got to say.
I have a question. So starting right off, what is your most memorable quote or favorite quote from New Jack City?
Wait, you kind of opened up mine. Because you said, as soon as I heard New Jack City, I'm like, rockabye, baby. And then I'm like, that is New Jack City, right? And that's probably the top one. That's the one I have written down, at least.
Okay, so my favorite, and Courtney says it.
Sit your $5 ass down before I make change.
That is like perfect. And then I think when it was Courtney's favorite, because we did the Martin episode. And when he was talking about how his stereo got stolen. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and told Cole to sit his $5 ass down before he make change. It was perfect. So that was one. Inappropriately though, the one that stood out to me this time watching this movie,
I think I know what it is.
I want to shoot you so bad, my dick's hard.
I wasn't gonna guess that one.
I said, that's it. I don't know why, because I'm vulgar. That's what it is. It was one of my favorites.
It, but I'm like, I don't know if I can say that.
You sure can.
Feel free. Welcome. Here at the DSM podcast, we not only welcome but appreciate.
I'm here for it.
You selectively choosing the things that stick out to you in the film. I have quite a few. Speaking of inappropriate, I knew I should have treated you like a hooker. You ain't nothing but a high price hoe.
Man,
that cracks me up every time. I don't know why that's as funny to me as it is, but it's hilarious. Every time
I wish he had more to say. Like, girl, if you don't get your ass down, like,
but that was the beginning of a read. Like, it should have went down,
right? Like, she should have felt embarrassed. That's what I wanted. But hey,
It almost looked like she was like, yeah, you kind of right. And the hand
she like, duh, yes.
Duh.
Anyway,
I'm gonna keep on
for you. And then Pookie with his...
Should this be calling me, man? I just gotta go to him. Need help, man.
I felt a way about that because you see it so much and like other reference so much. And I'm like, oh, that's not funny. But that's funny, but it's not funny.
I think it's because it's Chris Rock, it's funny. I think if they had just got a regular actor, we would be very much like, oh, Pookie was really struggling with addiction. It is to the point where it's calling him. But it's Chris Rock. So it just keeps calling me, man.
I know, because even when he was about to die, he was like, Scotty, help me. I'm going to die. Like, the way his voice is, it's like hilarious. When I heard his voice when he said that, I instantly saw the zebra from Madagascar. Like, yeah.
Zebra.
Yeah. So
a little bit more sad one. Am I my brother's keeper? He didn't have to do Jimmy. Yes, he did. That's how it goes.
Did he? He told him he was going to do it, though.
He did.
He did. I'm going to kill him, and then I'm going to kill you. With that warning, I would go check Scotty out a little bit more myself. Like, maybe I need to find out before Nino does. But, he was... We'll get into that in Diagnosis a little bit more. C and B, we all we got!
I love it.
And then the one that I didn't like watching it this time, but that I think I've said in general conversations, cancel this bitch. Find up.
Oh, I was like,
he poured the champagne on her.
Poured the champagne on her.
You ain't have to pour the champagne. You done already pushed her on the table. She crying, all of that. That's insult to injury. They pulling me away. I'd have spit on him or something. Like, I can't beat you, but you gonna take this.
Okay.
You done pour champagne on my good weave.
This is
91. Do you know how hard it is to match that color in 91 with that texture?
You're not gonna cancel me and then pour champagne on me.
I hate you.
That's all you got, girl. You better start swinging. Shoot.
I'd have threw my shoe or something. Just like
gone.
Tear you off.
Right. Talking hella shit. We don't know what we was gonna do.
I would, I have no idea what I've done had I witnessed someone murder multiple people. And then,
when she started the conversation, she was really tough.
She was.
And then she recognized who she was talking to, and that she had seen him kill multiple. I think it started playing in her head that she had seen him kill multiple people. And then she was like, yeah, I hate you. I'm gonna go, but I hate you.
Right. The fact that he picked up a child to be his shield says a lot to me.
And I'm like, okay, was he moving her? Oh, he was not moving her. He was.
As a child, I thought he was moving her until Ice-T said that he used her as a human shield. And then
it was like,
he really did.
So I always put this in perspective, and because I just show my age, I don't care who cares. This came out 91. Let me tell you what I thought as a child watching this movie. When they had it on the white table, the vials of crack.
And everybody had their titties out.
I was just so in love with the colors. Like, candy.
Wow.
Everything was candy back then. Wow. I had issues. I thought clouds were cotton candy for a while. I did. So, yeah.
I don't think you should tell nobody else that. I think you should leave it here and then never mention it again.
Well, it's here. It's going to be out there forever. Yeah.
For what it's worth, I'm not judging.
Which also makes it even more sad, though, that there were the empty crack vials then at the playground. If kids look at it and think of it as candy, and then there's so many vials just at the playground.
It was so normal. Like, it wasn't until I sat down and watched this movie from this perspective, and I was like, there were times that I had paraphernalia around me and did not realize, like, oh wow, I would see it in the stairwells. We would see it, like you said, at the playground. I remember being in one of my foster homes, and it was the little dime bag of marijuana, and it had the green leaves on it, the green marijuana leaves on it. And I remember as a kid, I don't know how I got it, but I was just trying my best to figure out what can go in here that's little enough. Y'all, Jesus, I do have a therapist, but we don't talk about these things. I have other things to talk about, but I'm going to write that down as something to talk about.
I think, and Rosie, you judge me a lot for my watching these movies at such a young age, but I think watching these films at such a young age, I really understood all of the things that I was seeing and the things that were going on around me. And it very much so made it like, oh, drugs are bad. Drugs are not for me. I don't want to do drugs. I've seen these movies. I see what happens. And I don't know if the adults around me like took that perspective, because like one time I was helping my grandmother in the yard and she taught me like what weeds were. And so I'm walking, with my mom, and I pick up a weed because it's growing where it shouldn't, which is what weed actually is. And then so I pick it up and I'm like, oh, my lucky weed. And my mom definitely thought that I was talking about marijuana weed. And then we had to have a conversation. I was going to be like, girl, you are so late. You are so late. You are so late. But she'll probably hear this. So, hey, Mom, you was late. And that's not what I was talking about. Yeah.
I love that they had this innocent moment with the kids. And
we say yes to education. We say yes to shit that rhymes with education. I can't remember what else they said.
And no to drugs or something. It was a positive message in there. I said, okay, I see.
And then they were playing in crack files. But anywho, watching this movie now as an adult, were there any other things that stuck out to you?
Quite a bit. The first thing I noticed, there was some colorism tones in there.
Girl, let's talk about it.
So it could just be casting, but I don't think stuff like that happens accidentally. But thinking about the Nino Brown character being the lovely brown skin.
Oh my God, ain't he beautiful?
Oh, he's so fine.
That is a pretty man. Oh, he's so, I just want to look at his eyes. They're like looking into like a fawn's eyes. They just, ooh, he's so fine.
Yeah. That blue suit with no shirt.
Ooh. And when they was playing basketball shirtless.
Okay. Sorry, Jessica.
No, that's, yes. But they had his brown skin depicted as the evil kind of antagonist character, and the very light-skinned Ice-T as the protagonist.
Oh, yes.
So I was like, And then I noticed it again with Uniqua and what was Selena? Yeah. So Uniqua, the brown-skinned woman, was salacious and flirtatious and all of these other kind of Jezebel-ass characteristics, and Selena was the wholesome, how could you do this? I'm so hurt. Very light-skinned woman. So I was like, I don't know if this is just like the 90s thing, because you see that in a lot of
Is it wholesome though? Because she definitely was married to a drug dealer.
That's fair.
I mean, not the whole time. It sounded like she kind of, tried to bring him up in a different, like, okay, never mind.
He said, I mean, you gave me some books to read. Yeah. You knew who the fuck I was. Like, it was very much like, but I viewed it, maybe it's because of my own light bright bias, being high yellow myself, of like, but she wasn't enough.
She couldn't have kids.
She couldn't have kids, so she is like, you could be cute, but a man's gaze is going to go to something else. And I was like, so this woman is more attractive in her, more tantalizing, less hoish, just more tantalizing in her appearance. I don't know, but it definitely was hoish because you was fucking brothers. So that's right. Kind of.
But I also agree with Jessica too, in that like just the depiction of the characters and light skin versus dark skin, even having a white man, as well as a person, like he would say things at times that was like, really, dude, like this isn't about okay.
The police officer,
Nick,
who I felt like they were like, we refused. I feel like the writers were trying to make up for that, and so. Now that I sit with it, yes, I fully agree with your light skin, dark skin trope with the women as well. And I think I need to, with my therapist, go work through my own, shit, with bound to be enough. But anyway, I think that for the writers, they were trying to balance, like, how certain movies don't. We talked about this before, Dr. Rosie, with them feeling like there needs to be white characters in movies for Black movies to get made. We had that problem, or Eddie Murphy experienced that problem when trying to put out the films that he did. So he would just randomly throw white characters in there, which it feels like is what this film tried to do by having Nick Peretti in there. And then he but because they refuse to have that like white cop trope where it's the white officer that is gung-ho about the case and then saves the day, like they gave us nothing as far as like character development for him. All that we know about him is just that he is in recovery himself, but aside from that, we know nothing about this man. He has no arch, no nothing.
I found him really, really cringy, and it felt like his character was forced and confusing. Like, why are you shooting in the apartment? Like, yes, there's a target on the wall, but I'm certain that's not what it's for. Now there's light coming through, and
now outside is inside, sir. What are you doing?
And is this the play? Like, is this the rental? And okay.
Just annoying. I did not care for him at all. And if we're talking about diagnosis and how we don't know anything about this man, I listed him just as unknown substance related disorder and sustained remission because we don't even know what he was addicted to. All we know is that he felt like I used to be Pookie. So we don't know what that means. We don't know if he's still in NA. Clearly he would make a terrible sponsor because he's not always available. You can't like leave a stake out to go help someone not use. But it just, we know nothing about this man. Sorry to that man.
Yeah, I mean, he tried. I mean, he was an outsider. He was a misfit, and so I think that's why he was a good fit for Scotty. You know, to these two misfits, which I don't understand why they do that, but to cops, like I don't work well in teams or with others, and then now you put these two terrible people together to work as a team. Got it. So yeah, that I guess that's a cinematic type of thing. But I didn't
Mario
like
Van Peebles' logic.
Right.
This is also his cinematic directing debut in following the footsteps of his father, Melvin Van Peebles, the legend, the icon. Look him up if you don't know. But this was Mario's first directing debut, where he also had to star in it because that's, you know, how they do as a family. That's how the Van Peebles roll. But it was his logic to put them together. And even while he was explaining it, I was like, yeah, no, this. But we need new Jack cops for the new Jack City.
right.
And then he was surprised when the whole thing kind of fell apart.
Right. Child, the fact that they even thought that having Pookie as an informant was going to be like
Mario didn't. He didn't. Stone said, I gambled on you and you gambled on a crackhead.
Indeed. That is very factual and actual. That's pretty much the basis of the story. We gambled on a crackhead, we lost. And that's that. Mm-hmm.
The end.
No credit. Thanks for me.
Used to be prom queen, now you just prom fiend. Give me that, take it.
Ooh, the fact that he was beating that lady up for some turkey. I said, if you don't stop, come on. I thought we were.
She should have whooped Chris Rock's little ass.
She was scared. She was holding on to the turkey leg. Like, it was a turkey leg.
See, that's what it was. She only had one hand because the other hand was on the turkey.
No, not my turkey leg. Like, you know, that's
with her tutu. Why did she have on a tutu?
She wanted to be a cute crackhead. Okay. Out of all things, she wanted to be cute. Now, get into it.
Prom queen. Maybe it was the prom dress. It was the prom dress,
and it got ripped up so it looked like tutu.
You need to let that dream go. You had that nightmare. Let that go. Take that dress off.
So, you know what? Okay. In all seriousness, looking at that just was another reminder of like how crack could make someone who was like doing so well just fall from grace, if you will, and just like this basic person, or not even a basic person, just this zombie of a person, a shell of themselves in like this environment, was really sad. And, you know, I know that this story is actually based off of like the real brothers who, like a gang in Detroit, and they did something similar. It's called they were called the Chamber Brothers, and 4 brothers who sold crack in Detroit. And they did have a building like the Carter, but it wasn't the same like concept. And they had it so that when they would sell different drugs on different floors and right next to people who were residents of that building. And it was either like you stay, like Nino kind of said it, it's either they stay in and they deal with all the bullshit that comes with it, or they leave and they get out. And it's unfortunate the things that people had to deal with in these projects, you know, basically having to fight for their lives just to stay in the space that they rented and owned in some aspects, right? But yeah, the crack epidemic just did so much.
Yeah, it was the stories from the writers, an amalgamation of the Chamber Brothers and Young Boys Inc.
Young Boys Inc.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
it's another organization. Also, like, this is one of the few like crack epidemic films, though, and I guess because it is in New York and not West Coast based, where it doesn't also like highlight the fact that this was the entire crack epidemic. It was caused by the U.S. government, and they basically did this to us, and it was a strategic plan. So yeah, we're gonna making sure that we mention it here today.
Oh, absolutely. And I love the little monologue that Nino goes into and saying, "I'm not guilty," you know, and he just kind of introduces this idea that this is bigger than him. And
it's bigger than Nino Brown.
And he was correct, right? Now,
no brothers own no ships.
Okay.
I go down, I'm taking a lot of people with me.
And that's the problem.
Sorry, I got caught up.
No, it's okay, because I needed that, right? To let people know what I'm talking about in regards to how he tried to flip the script and taking responsibility, but he was actually, you know, telling the truth, and that it is bigger than him. He couldn't have done all this by himself. There were people who were able to supply him with the things he needed, including the guns and the drugs. So,
yeah, he did try to lie and put it on Kareem. We're not going to gloss over that. But I think that if with diagnosing Nino and like looking at possible treatment, I don't think I could handle Nino Brown being my client for two reasons. One, I don't feel like I'm skilled enough yet for him to be my client. And I feel like the reason of me not feeling skilled enough is because I would not see the things that he was doing as pathological, I think, as another clinician would, because I would view this as this is who you have to be successful in the occupational realm that you are in. Like the decisions that you are making, if someone brings police into your organization, you have to kill the police and you have to kill the person that brought them. Like that's what you have to do. Like there are certain things where I would just be like, if you're trying to be successful in you know, drug dealing, there's a certain level there is a lack of empathy that has to occur, because if you really take in all of the things that you are doing and how it's impacting others, you'll go crazy. So I don't know if I could. I know that sounds terrible, but I would be like, and most importantly, he fine. I don't know if I'll be able to get past. I'd be looking to his eyes like he was Prince, and I would be like mesmerized and wouldn't be able to concentrate. And so just for those reasons, I don't think that he could be my client. But I guess if I had to diagnose him for purpose of this being the Diagnosing Sitcoms and Movies podcast, I would look at both antisocial and narcissistic personality disorders. But I'm interested to hear what you ladies think.
Jessica, go ahead.
No, I said the same, because initially I was like narcissistic personality disorder.
Absolutely.
And looking at selling drugs since he was 12, killed a random woman while he was high on...
That was for a gang initiation. He had to kill someone. He had to get high in order to be able to cope with killing someone. See, this is why I couldn't be his therapist, because I'm you know, rationalizing his deviant behaviors.
Yeah, but all of those things, I'm like, pervasive disregard for other people's rights, exploitation, impulsivity. That sounds more APD, or antisocial personality disorder, to me.
Absolutely. I threw out narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder well into the movie. Because I just saw how he interacted with people and had he had a complete disregard for people. Especially, what is his name? I'm forgetting his name now.
G-Money?
G-Money. It's hilarious to me.
Not with how much you love Alan Payne. You forgot his name was G-Money.
Because I was going to say Alan Payne, and I'm trying to stay with the characters, okay? G-Money. Hopped into that Wrangler And the way he left that basketball, I was like, wait, he left that like real quick. Like, how he get there in the back seat that fast? But anyway,
It's
was like, oh, okay. And he was just like, enjoying himself, enjoying life, being just, active, and he just made it, just twisted it like, oh, now we making money, you don't got time to be on these courts playing games. And then it's just like, all right, calm down, like I'm just having a good time, like, geez. So it was
I was like, it's the money that's driving him crazy. Most people can't handle having that much money. It does do something to you.
I do believe that in order for you to be this type of person, in order for you to be a kingpin, a pimp, a serial killer, you have to have some of these traits.
A drug dealer to a serial killer.
I think.
Well, maybe, okay, you said
there
kingpin.
are
You
traits.
said kingpin. I take it away. You said kingpin. You didn't say drug dealer. You said kingpin.
I didn't.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Because there's a difference, because the kingpin does have to do more than just selling loads. It's large, and then killing people, the kingpin. And so I think that there's a type of personality that you have to be able to just like not have any remorse for what you're doing and how you're interacting in those situations across the board. So that's why I feel like I grouped him in there. And he doesn't. He shot his brother. He cried, and then he was watching TV the next day.
He cried. He cried. Yeah, that was what did it for me. It was you, and you went and got her. Like, of all the women that you could go get right now, you went and got her. But I mean, maybe she does certain things where he was like, you know what, I am really stressed and I am really tight. I just had to murder my brother. I need some form of release. And I know that this young lady right here, she does that one little special thing that I like, and I don't know where else I could get that right now at this moment. So I would just call her. But one thing I did want to highlight is that individuals with antisocial and narcissistic personality disorders share a tendency to be tough-minded, glib, superficial, exploitive, and unempathetic, which I thought were the basic characteristics of the character, definitely. And I was more so just focused on the antisocial with the crime elements at first. But then once it came to how, like you guys pointed out, how he was treating G Money is where I brought in the narcissistic personality, like where they watch his Scarface and he's like, the world is mine. And G Money's like, hey, don't forget the brothers. It's C and B. The B is important. And he's like, all mine. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's just you feeling like you need the recognition. And even when he is on the phone with the Italian dude, he's like, I built this, I did all of this, not my team, not we, not looking at it as C and B. And the things that he did with his crew that he started out with from the very beginning, it very much so became a me situation. And so I conceded and went ahead and did the right clinical thing and gave him the personality disorders, even though I feel like it's a occupational character flaw.
That's it. I love it. I had questions. I'm like, I need to know more backstory. Like, I feel like something traumatic that happened in the childhood. Like, where were the parents when he was doing all of this? Like,
probably at work.
I mean,
they grew up poor, so they might have been at work.
The saying monsters aren't born, they're made, like created. I'm like, okay, there has to be something that happened for him to go down this pathway and develop in the way that he did.
I think killing a woman at a young, tender age might do that to you.
I think he was wild before that, though. I think
he might have been wild, but I don't think he was that, like, he wasn't a killer. Yeah. Like, he might not have been to that place yet. And that's why he had to get super high on the dust in order for him to be able to go do it. Like, I feel like he was probably like a badass, wild kid, the kid that you don't want your kids playing with outside, all of that. And then the gang culture brought him up and raised him into being what he was to that point. And then him also being an older brother, trying to take that into account and feeling like he probably has to protect and lead the way for his brother. He probably felt like he had to do more, be the biggest, be the baddest, be the toughest, so that he could be in that leadership role, not just for himself and the gang, but also for his younger brother.
I wonder if that's early substance use had something to do with it too.
I'm sure.
I was thinking the
it's
same
not
thing.
helping with his development.
Right, because I'm wondering, because that was another diagnosis that I was toying around with too, because he loved him some champagne. And I mean, he was greeted at the club with a bottle of champagne and a straw.
I've always wanted that. For my next birthday, that's what I want.
That's how you want it?
I want a bottle and I want a crazy straw. I don't even drink that much, but it looks so cool. I'm sorry. I loved Nino Brown the whole first half of the movie. Everything he did was amazing. And even the dancing that he was doing in the club, I loved it all.
Like
and yep, it was, I want to be welcomed into the door. Just like that.
Yeah. I figured the first thought that came in was, wow, he's going to have a lot of gas with the bubbles and the straw. I just didn't know. I was concerned. So, but I did also figure that there has to be some type of substance use. What would you think, Jessica, as far as like alcohol use disorder, or do you think it like something else?
I think it's possible. I noticed after things started to fall apart, we saw him drinking a lot more and looking distressed as he was drinking. So I'm like, open with alcohol. So we know the brain's not fully developed. At least the prefrontal cortex doesn't finish developing until we're about 25.
Mm-hmm.
So from 0 to 25, so many different things can change the course of our development. Psychoactive substances being one of those really big things.
Mm-hmm.
To the extent that a lot of mental health conditions, like certain drugs, can speed up the age of onset. Or like cannabis, for example, can increase the likelihood of experiencing a psychotic episode. So I'm like, here, maybe something with the angel dust did a little something extra.
Just to do it to you.
Wait, did I miss that? He did angel dust?
When he was young, that's when he's on the roof and he's explaining to Ice Cube. I see how he killed his mom. He's like, I got wild dusted, got high, real high on angel dust, and then didn't stay to watch the body drop.
I completely missed. I thought he was talking about weed. Jesus. Yeah, you're right.
Consumed the same way, but
then he also
a little something extra.
And then, but didn't the Dutta Man mention that that they don't do? That's the rule. What was it? Was it that they don't do cocaine, or that they don't do like?
The Dutta Man stuttered, so I'm not exactly sure what the exact quote was that he said.
Don't get high on stuff.
Don't get high on their own stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, right. But then, but they were, at the time, before G Money introduced crack, they were selling cocaine. Right? Okay. Got it. All right. But it was okay to do angel dust. It just wasn't okay to do cocaine because that's what we're selling.
He also wasn't selling drugs at that point in time. He was a child. Well, he doesn't say that he's selling drugs at that point in time. He just says that he's involved with a gang.
Got it. All right. Cool. Maybe I read into it too much, but I do think there is like maybe an unspecified use disorder.
No, you can't prove it. No, you can't prove it. You cannot tell me that Nino was getting high at that point, and I will not accept anything otherwise without concrete evidence.
I hate to tell you this, but he's not your client. You've already said that.
Exactly. So even more so reason why you cannot prove to me that he was getting high without no real evidence.
What'd you say, Jessica?
Maybe some alcohol misuse.
Okay.
I will give you alcohol misuse. Yes.
All right. Cool.
Misuse of alcohol, or just it was often also used during celebratory instances. So that is the purpose of alcohol. Champagne, as it is marketed, but whatever. We want to talk about somebody using that ain't supposed to be using. Let's talk about G Money stimulant use. Mild crack cocaine.
Yeah, you're right.
Current.
Yeah.
Well, it's not current because him dead.
Yeah, the prognosis is terrible for a lot of these people because most of them are dead. So yeah, there's that. But G Money, yes, I diagnosed him stimulant use disorder, mild crack cocaine.
I did the same, and I had a question mark. I'm like, I wonder if there's some type of depressive disorder there, because he would always look really deflated in moments, and I'm like, I wonder if that substance use is coping with the depressive symptoms.
If G Money was at any point my client before, his untimely demise, I would want to look at some of that birth order stuff, because that is when they are on the roof and he and Nino is like, yo, what's going on with you? And G Money is finally like really starts crying and breaks down and even tries to hug his brother, and Nino pulls away. He's like, you humiliated me. You treated me like I was spineless. And it was a lot of G Money wanting to enjoy the fruits of the labor with Nino alongside of him as brothers, wanting to do that together. And it was a lot of Nino pulling away, taking it himself, doing it on his own, making others around them feel bad, like being ugly towards the team, where it seems like G Money was all about the family aspect of it, them all doing things together. And I feel like Nino was taking that away from him. And so I kind of attributed a lot of the deflated presentation as that. But now that you bring up depression, it is something that I definitely would definitely like to assess further if, he won't dead.
I wonder if we could consider adjustment disorder with depressive mood, because he's having to adjust to the growth of the business and just the dynamics and how everything is changing. So it was once this family-oriented type of business where we cared about each other. We had everybody's best interest at heart. And now he's adjusting to this new way of working with Nino. And it's starting to seem very much like it's all about him and pleasing him. And he's having issues with where he fits in, and whether or not he's actually someone who has some type of authoritative type of role, because I feel like he got involved with the undercover cops and, doing some side stuff because he wanted to feel like he had some say-so and not it just being completely Nino.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely. And two, I think something that I didn't pay attention to until watching the movie again this time was the time lapse that the film actually is supposed to occur between. Like, this is over a span of years, and that it's not just boom, 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 boom. Like the quick montage of like Nino getting fitted for his suit, them doing the different things, the business growing. I don't know why I always just looked at it as, oh, this is a glimpse into their day to day. But no, this is supposed to be a time lapse, because it even shows like, oh, this is now 1989 at the beginning, where I forget what year they started, but it is a span of time, as opposed to this is just a little bit of time that this happens in between.
I agree, because even one thing that stood out to me were the singers in front of the Carter. In the beginning, when they're singing, it's in the summer. You see the man scraping the ice, and the group size is actually significantly more than what it is in the winter when there's only three.
Groups, Rosie. It's two different groups.
No, I thought it was
it's
Singing About the Fire?
And first it's Troop, and then it's Levert.
Oh, it is Levert.
I noticed Levert. I'm like, okay, maybe this is like the older version of them, but it was two different.
It was two different groups. I'm like, oh my God,
Troop,
it
changed. And then it's
changed.
Levert, because the soundtrack, actually, that version of the song with Queen Latifah is on the soundtrack, and it has Troop, Levert. Queen Latifah, and Levert all on the song. True. And so they Troop is singing their part of the song at the beginning, and then
it's Levert
singing their part. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, there's still a transition in season. and basically
You're right.
You see, what it looked like when at first, before they started to infiltrate, the building, and then what it looks like at the end when everything is kind of complete and they've been operating for a while, apparently. Yeah.
It goes from the lady looking out her window with flowers to like looking like Armageddon.
Oh my God. For real. I'm like, where did y'all even find this steel door? And then these library cards. There's so many questions that I have about this system.
Like a blockbuster.
It was very high tech.
Very high tech.
They were ahead of their time. Kareem was doing his motherfucking thing, okay? Kareem was over all of the technology and all of that. And you know what? Had Kareem been given the positions of power as he should, which I feel like he was probably held back by systemic oppression and racism within the banking system, and he was just working at some low-level job. Look at all the things that he could do when given a space, opportunity, and resources. But unfortunately, these are the places where some people have to find their opportunities. It's all a conspiracy by the man to keep us oppressed. And when you give us things, look at what we can create. Now, if you only allowed us into systems that work for good, imagine what we could do. I'm sorry. I have a question. So with Kareem's problems related to employment, his Z code that I gave him, after after he was stabbed in the hand, do y'all feel like he should have stayed with CMB, like to prove that he ain't no punk and like he can handle like the fact that he got stabbed and keep going? Or do you feel like he should have left the business or CMB in general because like you stabbed me in my hand, like I'm not going to tolerate being stabbed during a staff meeting?
I kind of feel like he knows what he signed up for, though. Like just the nature of the organization. I can't say that if I was him, I would be surprised. I'd be annoyed. But is that really enough? Like, he's witnessed people murdered.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know.
But you stabbed me in the hand. It wasn't my fault. You was mad at G-Money. But I guess I handpicked Pookie, so you stabbed me in the hand. Very Hannibal of the situation. But, you know, I get it. It's just my concern is that now, like so Kareem, you stayed and now you facing the RICO charge because Nino is now pinpointing you, naming you as the leader of the CMB organization. So
I don't know. I mean, he never liked his pretty ass anyway. So I think he had it coming the whole time. So that's what he get for being pretty. Don't be pretty, friends.
I'm sure that whole family has got to hate Nino, go spit on his grave every Wednesday. Like, whew.
Anywho,
I do think I over-identify with Selena. I have a cousin named Kareem. It's all coming together. You know what? I'm working through this in supervision.
I think that's a good place.
Because I would have to, because this is why Nino could not be my client. It all comes back to I could not have Nino as a client. Did you guys diagnose Pookie with anything other than stimulant use disorder, severe crack cocaine?
I didn't. I thought it was pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
Same.
He's affected by poverty, but outside of that.
Yep, pretty much.
Hold up.
And I hate that we don't get more of a backstory for Pookie. Like, did he grow up in poverty? Is this a situation where he lost everything in his family as a result of his use, where they didn't want anything to do with him anymore, so he was on the streets, and he didn't have, that's why he didn't have any resources to go back to? Or
after he got shot in his ankle, because initially he was just robbing people, and then
he was hiding too, though. He was hiding too. Yeah. I figured so, because that's what the fidgeting was for. That's what the eye. If you look at his pupils, I was like, oh, he high right now.
That's why he was running for that long. Like, that was a long
case. You're not catching no crackhead. He had to shoot him in order to catch him.
Right? That overpass, fell, and then got up and continued.
And then got up and kept running. I said, ain't no way. Ain't no way. But when you on crack, I guess you can do a lot of things. You know what I mean? So it is what it is.
It's a hell of a drug.
A hell of a drug.
Is. And I think that's why it's kind of like a open shut thing, and at least from my perspective with him, just because of the mechanics of how cocaine works. Right? Like, it's stimulants in general, because they tend to have that little shorter window where people actually experience the high. People are more prone to use it back to back, and that creates develops the dependency, physiological dependency a little bit faster. So I'm like, okay, with him, it makes sense. I get it.
Yeah.
And that was before they started. Matter of fact, he might not have been on crack at that point in time, because that was before they started selling crack. If we're looking at the window of time from the movie. So it might have just been cocaine at that time. And why he didn't present in the way that he did later on. It was more like he looked.
It aged. And that's what crack, a little bit crack does. Yeah. It ages the user as well. Yeah. That makes sense. I always wondered, what the aftermath was for him taking on that role. And one of the things that I found, like, kind of looking over this movie was he said that people would put crack in his pocket.
Oh no.
After this movie, after his role in this movie, assuming that he actually really used crack. Yes. They
wanted to support that? Those terrible, terrible people.
Right. I was like, that is terrible. Like, why would people do that? So yeah, he had some moments, and he talks about it in one of his books. But yeah, for several years, drug dealers, crack addicts would approach him and put crack and cocaine in his pocket, joking that they thought it was a documentary. And he stated that in his book, Rock This, that he wrote in 1997, his memoir in 1997. Yeah.
See, that's always been Chris Rock motherfucking problem. Stop letting people walk up on you, Chris. Like, you didn't learn from when the people was putting stuff in your pocket. Like, bruh, stop letting people walk up on you. You should have learned the lesson back then. Damn it, now.
That went far. I wasn't expecting that. Well, like, why is somebody able to slip something in your pocket?
Why are you letting people get that close to you? Yes.
Security.
People walk up on you. Security. Tony Rock, come get your brother. Like, what are you doing? Why are you letting people all up in his face like that? He had been on Saturday Night Live by then. Like, what the hell?
Damn, son.
But I will give it to Chris Rock. I think that he acted his ass off in this movie. I think he did a hell of a freaking job. And I think because it's Chris Rock, we look at it as funny. But he, like, the acting was great in this movie. And I wish that we would see more, like, dramatic roles from him. Because I think he probably could deliver.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think he did an amazing job. You know, Ice-T was not wanting to take on his role because he wanted to be a little bit more... At the time, I think he had an album that was out, or I think it was like was that the album that came out before this? But anyway, so he wanted to continue like kind of having his like, you know, fuck the police type of mentality.
Oh, cop killer.
Cop killer, that's right. So for him to take on this role as a cop killer, as a cop, he felt that would kind of like, you know, damper his little image, if you will, but it actually promoted him and made him a lot more credible, and people wanted to have him more in movies. And
now look at the irony of life. That man made a whole career pretending to be a cop.
Okay, Special Victims Unit. These are their stories. Dun, dun. I love it. I love it. Yeah. So did you actually diagnose his character, Scotty?
Scotty, I looked at unspecified trauma and stressor related disorder because it does seem like he brings up the death and murder of his mother a lot, interacting with people that are involved with drugs. And it seems like that is kind of what is the underlying something of him even entering into the career field that he chose. But I'm not exactly sure like what all criteria that he met. So and I also feel like most police officers, like they see a lot of stuff. And a lot of them, because it's on the job, they don't view it as, they try not to describe it as traumatic. But there's some of the stuff that they see, I feel like all of them would benefit from regularly, like checking in on some of that. Same with counselors. I feel like it should be mandated. Like we have our own therapists, like they need to have therapists too. But absolutely. I think if Scotty was my client, I definitely would look into doing some EMDR with him.
Yeah, I can agree. I would definitely consider like PTSD. And I know that we haven't talked much about this transition into the new DSM, but I know that they have one for grief as well. And I feel like he is just still processing his grief. So that would be something that I would talk about with him, especially like grief counseling for him.
Prolonged bereavement,
yes. So yeah, I'm kind of at a toss-up on which one would come first, whether it would be PTSD or depression, because then perhaps the PTSD is what causes the depression. So I'm kind of on the fence with which one I would go with first. What do you think, Jessica?
I was thinking, I had a question mark around PTSD because I'm like, his just general presentation, his affect is really restricted. Like we don't see a lot of emotional range from him outside of just kind of blah and then explosive. So I'm like, okay, I could see some emotional detachment, maybe that being like an avoidance aspect. Yeah, burying himself in the work, because we really don't learn much about him outside of the trauma with his mother,
right?
And the police officer.
Right, that's true. And then we also don't know like what's his relationship with family. So what happened, you know, like were there siblings, where's his dad? We don't have that information. So yeah, that's interesting. He's a mystery for me. Question mark.
We need further assessment for Scotty.
But he's such a more. Right, he's such a prominent character too though. So it's just like, man, is that us or is it the writers?
No, I think that's part of like what his presentation is part of what makes his character is that he is so restricted. He is, like Jessica said, throwing himself into the work. It's all about doing that to avoid having to really live and exist in life in another way. And I also think that is part of the job with being undercover, is not having too much attachments to other things, so that you can fully engross yourself in who it is that you're supposed to be at that certain time, and not have areas of weakness where someone then can threaten a loved one of yours, and then you're compromised because he's dealing with some very dangerous people. So that might be a protection that he has established for himself, and feeling like he doesn't want to lose anything again after the loss of his mother. So I think that that's all kind of wrapped up in how that trauma and stressor, if we're just like fully diagnosing. I'm sure they didn't consider that in writing his character.
No, absolutely, right? Like, who cares about mental health when they're writing these things, right? Fun.
Base these characters a lot of the time off of mental health diagnoses.
I think so too, especially because they are looking at like basing them in tying them to realistic people. And so because real people come with real issues, anytime that you are really trying to mirror something off of, situations that have taken place, normal occurrences of how police officers interact, how they structure their lives, how they function, you're following a trope that has been created by the existence of people. And so it's ingrained in mental health, whether that is your intention or not, whether you choose to recognize it or not. But there are reasons that these people interact in such a stereotypical manner. It's because this is how they are compensating for the things that they're experiencing.
I suppose. But then it also makes me feel like some of these diagnoses definitely don't usually, especially at that time, don't take into cultural considerations as well, which is why with the current one,
none of them do.
Right. I mean, but even the current one is trying to adjust for those cultural and using more cultural sensitive wording.
So the status of mental health, the structure, theories of therapy, the DSM is all through a Eurocentric lens. Like, it absolutely does not take into consideration, kind of like Courtney was talking about, a lot of the ways in which Nino was functioning, he kind of had to because of the environment, because of the nature of the work. And he was probably in that nature of work because socioeconomic factors and everything that he did was probably really normative for that time period, for that area that he was in. But, from a clinical perspective, you see it's anti-personality. I mean, there's probably still there.
It probably still is, but it's all influenced. It has an arena for it to play out in such a severe way because of the societal structures that are in place that were in front of him. Where else could Nino Brown exist and be a successful individual?
Where else can they take over an entire project building? I was just like, dang, ain't nobody gonna say
nothing
and operate for that long.
Well, I mean, if I was outside of my residence and I see my landlord butt ass naked at gunpoint, I think I probably either shut up or move out, ship out. You know what I mean?
I think I would have been in the municipal housing office the next day. Like, do y'all have any other properties that I can go to? Like, I know I'm fully aware that I'm in the projects and I am at the whim of this societal structure that exists here as far as housing. But can I go somewhere else?
Is there a possibility?
I gotta open it.
The structure, because the projects weren't always like that. Community housing wasn't always like that, but when they started to change the physical structure of it, putting bars and gates and all those other things
and building up as opposed to out to separate people from the earth and their humanity.
Yeah, there's a lot. The actual conditioning that they actually help people go through, not helped, but had people go through with especially in New York, when we have like certain the doors slam. And when you hear it, it's equivalent to like a jail cell slamming. When you look at the concrete walls and the tiling on the floor, it all mirrors what jail looks like. Even our schools, even our public schools kind of have similar types of structures that it almost makes you feel like you're actually, you're institutionalized without even realizing it.
did that here in Chicago. I remember the high school that I graduated from had metal detectors at the door.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, and you think about just geographically, because all of that plays a role in how people behave in their environment.
Mm-hmm.
You go to certain areas within Chicago and see litter, paraphernalia,
Mm-hmm.
decrepit buildings, and all kinds of things where you
Mm-hmm.
drive a little further north or a little further, east, and it doesn't look like that. Like the problems there wouldn't exist because the city takes better care of certain areas.
Absolutely.
So it's race, socioeconomic status, and all of this stuff. And that's one thing that stood out for me in the movie. I'm like, this really just highlights how little this country has cared about poor Black and brown people. For all of this stuff to happen.
Yeah.
And there's two cops, two police officers they put the misfits on.
Who have gone rogue. By the end, the police department wasn't even behind them no more. They was doing this on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. All right.
Yeah.
It's all structural. It's all intentional. It's all on purpose. There's no ways around that. I think I have been interested in Wesley Snipes. Like when he does interviews and people are like, man, New Jack City. Like, I don't know if he likes this film anymore. Like, I think it was definitely proposed to him as being like the Black Godfather. And if you look at even some of the ways that Mario shot some of the scenes, you can definitely see like that was the intention. And the fact that I don't think it came across in that way, that it was just labeled like a Black hood classic. I don't think that Wesley appreciates that. I feel like maybe he feels that the movie was categorized in a way that he's unhappy with, that maybe it's not getting his just due. And so now he just doesn't appreciate being tied to the film in the same way, because even with the the stage play that they are doing with where Alan Payne is still playing G Money, but Tretch is playing Nino Brown. And it sounds like maybe Wesley was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. But maybe his schedule, wouldn't permit. He's Wesley Snipes, so who knows? But I wonder if he just doesn't like the film in that way anymore.
I think it kind of got some bad, it got some bad attention, especially with the media, because, of the rioting that happened around this time, especially for Rodney King's beating. And so there were a lot of theaters who actually pulled the movie after a while too, because they said it was inciting some type of propaganda or agenda to help people feel, basically. And so I also wonder if that may have played a role in it, and him feeling like, it received this negative media attention, but it was so necessary for people to see this and maybe the storyline. I don't even know if the storyline could be any different, especially for that era and time. So I think it might just be the fact that, looking back at it and seeing some of the things that were portrayed, maybe it's just not the highlight of his career for him. I wish we could talk to the actors and actresses in these movies and get their insight.
One day, when the podcast blow up or whatever, we can have them.
I come back when Wesley Snipes is here.
Yeah, girl. Who?
I'd be like, hey, call me. I just want to talk to you real quick.
I want to learn martial arts. I need a bodyguard, someone to guard my body.
Help.
Look like a master to me. Anyway, I just felt like Nettie from The Color Purple was working real hard to get into the shot in the courtroom when they were sitting there. She was like, she like leaning forward, like she's right in between the two actors, like looking back and forth, and they dialogue like, Nettie, sit back.
I had completely missed that.
Yeah, watch the courtroom scene again. That is Nettie from The Color Purple being all in the camera, following the dialogue between the two people. Like, man, you're supposed to be in the background. Cut it out.
I'm going to be seen today.
I love it. This was fun one to watch and try to diagnose.
It was. I actually was going to diagnose the Man. The fact that that's his name.
They wrong as hell for that.
They are so wrong.
They so wrong. The Dunner Man.
The Dunner Man. Yeah. That's exactly what came into my head when I saw that. I was like, I never picked up on it. And okay, anyway. So childhood onset fluency disorder.
So I looked at that too. And I went with like maybe potentially because it does create a limitation in his effective communication, whereas maybe he wouldn't just have been muscle had he been able to express himself more fluently. But my concern was that, and why I kind of didn't lean into it, was that he didn't have any anxiety. It seems they didn't write enough into his character for us to see if he had any anxiety surrounding like speaking, or because he was around people whom he loved and trusted, so we might not see as much anxiety about speaking and presenting in that way. It didn't keep him from, when he has something to say, he still has something to say. But brothers don't get hot. Like, he still was talking, so I didn't know if there was if it was causing or impairing his functioning enough in other ways, just because they could have gave him a little bit more to the character. Do the man got any kids? Like, I want to know.
I do. I thought it was really interesting that for him to be the opening character dangling the man off of the bridge, that he also then falls off of something.
Oh, look at the foreshadowing. I didn't even pay attention to that. Wow. Yeah, cinematographic lens there. Yeah, I like it.
I loved it. I was like,
you would think that this show is about movies. Look at you.
I'd be trying. Yeah.
I noted with him, it seemed like he was always the voice of reason.
He was.
Brothers don't. When Nino was about to do something, he was like, "No, wait a minute, don't do that."
Especially when he was choking Kareem, right? That's his name.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. When he did speak, it was insightful.
So I guess that's why I kind of was like, I'll let it go, because he still speaks when he needs to. He just wait until he has something important to say, because he knows it's gonna take a while for it to get out. That sounded really bad. I'm sorry to anyone that has a speech impediment. I just couldn't find a better way to phrase that. I'm sure there is one. It just came out really, really bad. I'm sorry. Keisha. I didn't diagnose Keisha. I just want to talk about Keisha because I love Keisha. Keisha did not have to jump out from where she was behind to shoot. No. She could have just shot. Everyone there with terrible shots. Like the fact that only 3 people got shot with all them automatic weapons. Like y'all need some target practice as a gang, as an organization, and but she didn't have to come from where she was covering to shoot.
I think that's why I was so annoyed with the line "Rockabye Baby." Like, you didn't have to get back in the damn car.
But it was very on par for when she hopped out the back of the Jeep and shot the man in the head in broad daylight. But then it was fitting. Then it was rockabye, baby. But other than that, like, I just didn't know why she had to die the way they had her die. Because Money was the only person that shot anyone.
But also, why are you going to shoot someone without cover? She just came out. Like, you're not going to even try to cover. This was, like, come on, get it. No. Not okay.
She didn't have to die. Keisha, you didn't have to die.
You didn't have to die.
But I think that speaks to, again, I don't know if this was purposeful, but just the commitment that she had to CMB. Like, we don't see her have any family. We don't see her have anything outside of CMB, any friends outside of CMB. It really looks like this was her family. And so when you threaten a mama bears, I don't know. They're not a pride if they're bears. That's lions. Cub, but that's not just a kid. Like, what is it? A colony of bears? Do bears travel together? You know what? That's neither here nor there. They messed with the wrong one, and she felt protective, so she said, "You know what? I'm going all out." And poor Keisha.
Yeah, I don't know nothing about bears, bruh. Sorry.
Yeah, poor Keisha. Clearly, neither do I. We talked a little bit about Selena earlier. I just don't know if I had mentioned that I diagnosed her with a Z code of spouse or partner abuse, psychological, confirmed, subsequent encounter. Yeah, that like him making fun of the fact that she couldn't have kids, like threatening her, threatening and harming her actual cousin, a person whom she loves. Just, yeah. If you touch me, yeah, all of that. Yeah. So while Nino Brown was fine, he couldn't have been my man.
That's something I noted, how they were making fun of the infertility issues. And I have been talking with some colleagues about how a lot of the time, just thinking of people I've worked with, and there's not a lot of conversations about Black women's infertility.
No.
Interesting that came up, and we're still just beginning to have those talks now.
And it only came up as a result of them watching Scarface, because I don't know if you're aware, but Michelle Pfeiffer's character in that movie could not have children, and it was part of their issues that they were having as well. And it was why part of the thing of him likening himself to Scarface, in that she can't have no kids, man.
Yeah, right.
Which is fucked up. I'd have left right there. Like, really? You gonna tell in front of this hoe?
Right.
Not doing it to stop the advances. Just
it was wrong. It was not tasteful at all. But I mean, that's Nino. But to your point, Jessica, I also agree that we don't talk enough about, especially as Black women, we don't talk a lot about pregnancy and what that really looks like. And then we don't really hear, or I have like maybe two people in mind when I think about this, when we talk about IVF. It's not common. And I'm wondering if it's not common simply because of like the class, like it's expensive. It's not cheap. Right. For someone to be like, yeah, I'm going to go do this. And you're like, oh, wow. It's like a lot.
It's a lot. We don't talk about it. And I've been hearing more about women going through the process and not having success with it, and everything that comes with that.
Yeah.
Invested all the money and dealt with some of the stigma that surrounds it.
Oh, yeah.
Weird connection between people expecting, like, it's a stereotype of people expecting Black and brown women to be like exceptionally fertile, and then when you run into issues with fertility, there's this whole thing around it when it's like, no, that.
Definitely. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because it is something that we're not discussing enough within our community. And hopefully this is, a good start, by acknowledging it. And then hopefully as we're going out into our respective fields and working with clients, that these are conversations that we're willing to have and open to having with them too.
Beautifully said, ladies. Allow me to interject with ignorance. Why was the old man's name Old Man in the film? And why did they give him that stagecoach robbing ass gun that he had to take down the crime boss of New York City?
It did what it needed to do. That was the
oh, man.
Oh, yeah. Idolater.
Like, what?
I'm required in hell.
He was a little annoying though. Like, but come on now. You just gonna come here just to say something. You ain't gonna really do nothing. Come on. And Wesley Snipes made fun of him. I was like, oh, they had to do it like that.
But I think it adds to the irony of the police were trying to take down Nino Brown. The Italians were trying to take down Nino Brown. All of these different people. And Old Man was the one that got it done with the stagecoach gun. Yeah. It took one bullet. Y'all done wasted all of these motherfucking taxpayer resources on trying to get this man, and y'all done failed. And this old man came with this gun from 1923 and handled it.
Done and done. Done it all. Done it all. Okay, I'm sorry. Do we miss
Last
anybody?
question. Did y'all? Well, I don't think so. We talked about everybody, child. Did y'all enjoy watching the movie?
I did.
It had some cringy points, but for the most part, I'm like, oh, this is kind of nostalgic.
Yeah, it was. And that's when I realized, damn, Rosie, you was a dumb kid. Wow. I've come a long way, I think.
Jessica, if the listeners want to learn more about you or the services that you offer, the practice that you engage in, any of those things, if you're selling anything, whatever it is, please tell them how they can find you.
Sure. So I actually have a website for my consulting. So I work with organizations, but then I also enjoy providing community education.
Mm-hmm.
So the website is www.lovebhconsulting.com. On IG, Counseling with Love. It's fairly new-ish because I'm trying to be better about the social medias.
I know it.
Mm-hmm.
And the practice that I work with, who is accepting clients, Cultivate Your Essence, and their website is cultivateyouressence.com.
All right. And also, yes, reach out if services are needed. Are you offering more so services in the local Chicago area?
So as of right now, all of our clinicians are working virtually.
All right. And consulting can be done for anywhere in the area. So in the world, child. So if you need some consulting, go ahead and reach out.
Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Okay, I had to do it. Just one time.
Reach out. Because Diana did not like it when Michael started to oversing her. But as always, we also want to shout out our sponsor, that is Boxed Up. And if you need cameras, if you need equipment, if you want to improve the sound quality and visuals of the content that you create, try Boxed Up. You can visit their website at tryboxedup.com or look at them on social media at tryboxedup. Now, if you would like to support the show to help us get more content out to you all, you can visit our website and follow the Support the Show link to become a Patreon member or donate on our Cash App. Now, we're happy to get the kind of money that jingles, but we'd rather the kind that folds. As always, be sure to follow us on Instagram at the DSM Podcast, and you can subscribe to our show wherever you get podcasts. While you're there, go ahead and leave us a comment because we are counselors and actually care what you have to say. Until next time, y'all. Peace.
Okay, bye, you cinephiles.